Everyone says the same thing. Wait to 67, wait to 70, wait as long as possible. The standard advice isn't wrong. Waiting from 62 to 67 increases your monthly benefit. Waiting from 67 to 70 increases it further, roughly 8% per year beyond full retirement age. That math is real. But the advice becomes wrong the moment it gets applied to everyone automatically, no questions asked. Claiming at 62 comes with a permanent 30% reduction compared to your full retirement age benefit. That sounds significant until you run the actual numbers for a specific household. Here's a hypothetical. A married couple, both 62, with $1.8 million saved in IRAs. Each spouse has a full retirement benefit of approximately $3,100 per month at age 67 and $2,240 per month at age 62. Combined, that's $4,480 per month or $52,760 per year flowing in from day one without touching the portfolio. From 62 to 67, that's roughly $260,000 paid out before taxes. Real money during the years when they have the health and energy to use it. The break-even point doesn't arrive until they're 78, well into their slow-go years. And yes, if they live to 90, they'd leave roughly $269,000 in lifetime Social Security on the table. They know that. That's not their goal. For a couple with $1.8 million, claiming early isn't a sign of desperation. It's a deliberate choice. But here's what makes that choice really click, and it's something most retirement calculations completely ignore. Retirement isn't a flat line of spending. Retirees consistently spend the most in the early phase, the go-go years, typically ages 62 to 75. Spending in this phase can run 20% higher than in later stages. After that, it naturally drops. It may tick back up later with healthcare costs, but it rarely returns to the peak of those early active years. Think about what the go-go years actually look like. International travel, helping kids with down payments, bucket list experiences, and hobbies that cost real money. You have the health, you have the energy, you have the desire to use both. By 82, the picture often looks different. Not always, but often. So here's the question worth sitting with. If your biggest spending goals are concentrated between 62 and 75, why withhold income during those exact years to maximize a benefit you'll mostly collect at 78, 82, and 87? For a hypothetical couple, this is where the size of their savings changes the entire conversation. They wanted to spend $9,000 a month. Their plan now supports $10,500 a month after tax, with spending designed to step down naturally as their goals shift over time. They're not claiming early out of necessity. They have $1.8 million. They're claiming early because it's a strategic move. That $52,760 per year isn't a lifeline. It's fuel for the years they've been planning for their entire career. And those years aren't distant. They're right now. Claiming now funds the go-go years directly, without drawing down the portfolio at the very start of retirement, which is exactly when it's most vulnerable. Which brings us to the strategy that protects the portfolio when markets don't cooperate. Here's the piece most early claiming strategies leave out entirely. Even with Social Security covering a meaningful portion of income, the portfolio still needs to fund the gap. And in the early years of retirement, when you're actively withdrawing, a market downturn can do real and lasting damage. That's where the war chest comes in. The concept is simple. Take 6 to 7 years of living expenses and park them in short duration U.S. Treasuries. Not stocks, not long-term bonds, short-term Treasuries. Stable, liquid, government-backed. For a hypothetical couple spending $10,500 a month after tax, that war chest is roughly $500,000 to $600,000. With Social Security covering $52,760 of their annual income need, the portfolio only has to fund the gap, about $83,000 per year. The war chest covers that gap for 6 to 7 full years without selling a single share of stock. Here's what that looks like in practice. When stock prices temporarily drop, and at some point they will, you don't touch the stocks. You don't sell more shares just to generate the same spending power. You pull from the war chest instead. The stocks stay invested. You buy time, they recover, you don't sell at the bottom. You just keep living your life. This directly eliminates the forced selling problem, one of the most damaging and most preventable risks in early retirement. When markets recover, you replenish the war chest and let the stocks keep doing their job. Not complicated, just disciplined. And that discipline is what makes the next piece possible. With the war chest handling near-term income needs, the rest of the portfolio can stay exactly where it belongs. invested for the long run. This matters more than most people realize. A 62-year-old couple may have 30 years of retirement ahead. Inflation will erode purchasing power throughout. Bonds alone won't protect against that. Stocks, held inside a diversified portfolio over the long run, have historically been the primary driver of inflation-beating growth. If you drain your stock exposure in year one out of caution, you lose the very mechanism that keeps your money relevant at 82 and 92. The war chest removes the urgency to sell. When you remove that urgency, you give the stock portfolio the time it needs to do its job, compounding quietly in the background while the war chest handles the day-to-day. Now let's tie all of this together with the math people use to argument against claiming early. If you claim at 62 instead of waiting until 67, your break-even point is roughly age 78 to 79. Living past that and waiting would have paid off mathematically. But that calculation ignores everything we just covered. It ignores the go-go years spending curve. It ignores what early Social Security income does to your portfolio withdrawal rate. It ignores the war chest and how it protects against the sequence of returns risk. And it ignores the compounding that happens when stocks aren't being sold in a down market to cover living expenses. For a couple with 1.8 million, this decision isn't purely about maximizing lifetime Social Security. It's about building a plan that funds the life they actually want, protects the portfolio when markets get ugly, and gives the stock allocation room to grow over 20 to 30 years. Ask yourself this: if you could fund your go-go years with guaranteed income, protect your portfolio with a stable short-term buffer, and keep your stocks growing for the long haul, does waiting until 67 still feel like the obvious move? For some people, it absolutely is. For others, especially those with meaningful savings already in place, the answer is genuinely more nuanced. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. The decision of when to claim Social Security isn't just a math problem. It's a plan design problem. And when you factor in how you actually want to spend your retirement, how to protect your portfolio, when markets drop, and how to give your stocks the time they need to grow, the answer looks very different than the generic advice suggests. If you want to run your own numbers, your claiming age, war chest size, and withdrawal rate, that's exactly what we do at MOKAN Wealth. Click the link in the description to get started. We'll walk through your specific situation and build a plan that matches how you actually want to live in retirement. See you in the next one.